Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Like us on Facebook.
Thanks for joining us.
Keep listening to our weekly episodes to find out more.
Hi, and welcome to Book Chat. If you'll hold on a moment, I have a special guest just waiting. Here we go. So, on today's show, I have a special guest, and Portia Moore is our special guest today on Book Chat, and I am thrilled to finally get to speak with her, to talk to her about this amazing book that she has written. And I just want to give you the name of it, If I Break. It's the If I Break series by Portia Moore. And, you know, we do share a last name, but that had nothing to do with my influence as to why I wanted to get her on the show and talk about her book. But she is an extraordinary writer, and I have much respect for her talent. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce author Portia Moore. Hi, Portia. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. First of all, I just want you to tell everyone a little about yourself. I have your bio, but I just want you to just give them that personal touch of who you are.
That's why my bio probably sucks because I'm bad at talking about myself. But I guess I'm the author of the If I Break series. I write full time. I'm a mom. I'm a food lover. I love animals. I don't know exactly. See, that's a terrible bio. I need to hire somebody to like.
Oh no! I thought it was the perfect bio because it sort of, I think it summed you up based on what you just said now, and I'm just going to share with the audience a little bit about what you said. She says that I am obsessed with blowing kisses, and I guess that makes me a romantic. I love books and cute boys and reading about cute boys in books. I'm infatuated with the glamour girls of the past: Audrey, Dorothy, Marilyn, and Elizabeth. So, I can just jump right on that. So all the things you said, I can see those things in me too, because I know that I am a hopeless romantic. And I think it's one of the reasons why I love this series so very much. I read all the books, every last one of them. I read all the books, and I did. And it's on my list to reread them. Because I just felt so much, just reading about this story. But anyway, guys, I just want to give you all a synopsis about this book, and then we're going to start talking about it. So the synopsis is, it says, fresh off of a broken heart, I met Cal Scott. He was just what I lacked, a beautiful distraction. At 6'2" with ebony hair, storm gray eyes, and a smile that could only hide an agenda. I knew he was trouble, and for the first time in my life, a little trouble was just what I needed. No, what I wanted. It wasn't like I'd ever married a guy until I did. Let's see. What I thought would be my happily ever after was only the beginning. Cal has a secret, one that makes loving him come with a price, and being his wife costs more than I bargained for. So I absolutely love that, because you gave a lot without giving anything away. So I think that is one of the features of a great writer, to be able to give someone insight into a story without giving a whole lot of it away. So anyway, let's talk about the players in this book. Okay. So we have Lauren, who is a waitress / artist / mother to Kaylin, her daughter. And she is really confused about what is taking place in her life right now. She's only been married to Cal for a short while, but she's sort of fed up with him because he disappears for long, unexplained intervals of time from her life. And, there's just no explanation for it. But before we reveal the answer to all my questions and her questions as well, just let me mention the other amazing characters in this story who play a very intricate part in it, and that's Chris and Colin. So now let's start with Cal, since we know he's Lauren's husband. He's also complicated, or multifaceted, I should say. But before we dive into his character, let's talk about the backdrop of the story. So if you will, just dive right in there.
Well, the story begins because the series now there's 4 books with just the actual main or central characters, Lauren and Cal. And then there's some almost companion novels, What Happens After, The Trouble Before. So I think the series is like combined with all of those, like 8 books.
Oh, wow.
At the beginning, if I break book 1, we meet Lauren when she's just, well, the book starts where they're married.
Right.
And then we go back in time and we see how they fell in love. And they're just having a lot of issues because Cal's secretive and, he doesn't like to communicate with her. And he's pretty, kind of a shitty husband.
Yeah. I thought so too.
Like, sex and the gifts and, but you need more than that.
Yeah.
So it all kind of comes to a head when and I guess, is this spoilers or?
Well, let's wait a little bit for the spoiler. Let's build up to that. I thought Cal was, when I first started reading it, because it started out with them having an argument. I was like, okay, so here we go. We're doing that today. But that is the part that captured me, that pulled me right into the story, because I was like, okay, so they're fighting. Now, what are they fighting about? So I had to keep reading to find out what was going on. But still, even with Cal being, not the best husband in the world, I don't think he would have gotten an award for that. But I liked him. It was just something about that character that I liked straight off. Even although he didn't seem to take her very seriously. But, I knew that he was more complicated and more layered than our first impression of what we got to see of him.'Now, let's talk about Lauren a little bit. Now, I know that she was a, I don't want to call her a waitress, but I would say she was like I guess she was a waitress because she worked in a bar before she met him.
Yeah, well, Lauren was in school, so she worked as a bottle girl, kind of. My memory serves me correctly.
Okay.
She didn't do it wrong, but so she worked in the club, bartending, and I guess not really bartending, but working the bar sometimes. Pretty much a bottle girl though, and that's where they meet, her and Cal.
Okay.
And she's still in school at the time, and she does graduate throughout the book, so she gets her degree, but she doesn't kind of do much for the and she's an orphan. Both her parents passed away when she was young, and she has her aunt that's who raised her, and then she has her friends. So that's pretty much like her family unit. So when Cal comes in, I believe she had just broke up with her boyfriend. And, when you're kind of on the rebound, not that Cal is like a rebound guy, because he's amazing.
Right.
From his attitude sometimes, but so he just sweeps her off her feet, but she doesn't know exactly what she's getting into. And I think that most women can relate to that, or people in general in relationships, because when you're dating, it's fun, and the things that may not bother you in that time frame, once you move in together or once you get married, everything's magnified because you're with each other 24/7.
Right.
So when she's having issues with him, going off and doing his own thing, as far as what she thinks, it's not a big deal because it's exciting, when she can pop in on him whenever he wants. But when you're living with someone and they're gone and not telling you what's going on, when they're back, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a major problem. And that's what their fight was about, because she was fed up at that point. And she had to she had to get a little toasty to get her courage up.
It was just a combination of, when you're frustrated and you already know what the problem is, but then when you're sitting there, you're thinking and you're drinking, this explodes. Right.
And it did, but I think that she had, quite a bit of time to think about it. And, you could tell just from that fight that they had, the argument. Well, actually she was fighting by herself, because didn't even seem to be fazed by the fact that she was upset because, you know, that told me that, you know, that wasn't the first time that she had threatened to leave him. So he didn't take her seriously at all.
Yeah.
But so he knows how to handle her. But, you know, I love the chemistry between those two. I love that a lot, you know, because she loves him. And, you know, right away, I didn't think that Lauren was weak-willed at all. I really didn't. You know, I thought that she was strong. She was just really, really strong person. She had a very strong personality, even though, you know, we got to see her, see her at her lowest point in the relationship. But it takes some strength to deal with what she was about to discover about her husband. And I just have to say that I love the way that you constructed this story, and told it in such a way to where you had everybody guessing as to what Cal was up to, because we had no idea, you know, what he was up to, but still, you know, you made us want to hang in there all the way to the end to see what was going on. Now, I like the character Raven, her aunt. I think that's who she was, who pretty much raised her. And so, and her friends, you know, it was one of her friends I didn't particularly care for because she just seemed, you know, everybody has a friend like that, one that's like over the top, completely over the top. And, but I'm glad that Lauren, you know, is her own person. And, she was still trying to find herself, but I think, you know, within her self-exploration, you know, she was able to listen to her own mind and follow her own heart, you know, without other people influencing what she should and shouldn't do. So I love that you gave her, you know, that type of personality to where, you know, she could listen to them objectively, without running with, you know, what they said. But anyway, we know that, that they're married, and, you know, that their relationship was sort of whirlwind, you know, because I think she had only like dated him for some months before they actually got married. And so, but anyway, Lauren, at the end of the book, because now, you know, we sort of did the fill-in part where, you know, and let me just say, I love how you did the sequences in years, how you took us back to, like, you know, the different years of them meeting and the different things that are going in. I loved how you did that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of books, when you read sequences like that, they sort of confuse you. And you don't, you know, it's sort of hard to follow what's going on, you know, throughout the story. But with this, the way you wrote it and, you know, the way you sequenced the years and events and things like that, I was like, oh, okay. So to me, it gave me more insight, you know, about the entire story. And it helped me to keep up better, you know, as to what was going on, what had already taken place and what was about to take place in the story. So I'm glad you wrote it that way, because I didn't get confused once. So that was good. That's saying a lot about me.
No, originally I had this book on sub, traditionally published, and the agent that I was working with, who I won't name.
Okay. Okay.
Big time agent. We had this agreement about the sequencing of it, and that was one thing that caused me to walk away from that, because I'm just like, you can't tell this story in a linear fashion.
Right.
You know, I think you could, but I just thought it took away from something, you know, that made it what it was. So I'm glad that it didn't confuse people. No,
it didn't. It for me, it took nothing away. And I mean, had you not even shared that, you know, I would have been in total disagreement with the way that they wanted you to take that out anyway, because I mean, it would have took away from the story. I love the way you sequenced it. And, you know, I just like that, you know, I like that. A lot of, you know, publishers don't want you to, you know, to jump back and forth through a story, but sometimes it's necessary to do that. And I think it helped a lot in what we were dealing with in this story, because you couldn't actually give away, you know, what Cal was up to, Had it been more linear. So I think it was good to, to jump back and forth like that, to let us know who he was in the past and, who he was right now and what they were going through. So I'm not happy that you walked away from a traditional publisher, but I'm glad that, that you took control of your book, and it saw it come to fruition anyway on your own terms. So I'm glad you did it that way. So now the setting we know is in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
That's the backdrop of the story. So what made you choose Chicago?
Well, I'm from Chicago.
Cool.
I live in the Chicagoland area, so not the city technically, but there's suburbs all
okay.
around this. Literally, you drive 10 minutes and you're in a suburb.
Okay.
Like, I grew up in Chicago, so you know right what you know versus picking a city you know.
Very true.
And trying to, make it legit.
Very true. Very true. And I like that, that you chose that backdrop, because it seems fitting for the type of, we really don't know what type job Cal had, but but it seems fitting, that it went along with his lifestyle, So I think that Chicago is a major city, and any major city it probably would have fit, but I think Chicago was an excellent backdrop for this story, and the fact that it opened up the possibility of Lauren actually fulfilling her career goals as well, because she's an artist.
Right, yeah, Chicago's, they have a really great art community,
Mm-hmm.
and from what I understand, I'm not an artist in that aspect. There's a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
That's because half of the story takes place in the later books in Michigan, so,
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference between Chicago and a little town in Michigan.
Right. Because when I think about Michigan, I mean, Michigan is a fairly large place, but you think about a lot of farmland and and country and things of that nature. So I think that was a good balance to have this major city, and then to have Michigan as the place where Cal actually grew up, because it seems so out of character for someone of his huge personality. But anyway, we discovered that we discovered along with Lauren that Michigan was actually his childhood home. Now I don't want to go through through all the books, but we learned more about Cal and actually what happened to him, what transpired as to why he ended up in Michigan with with his family. So that's in the later books. But anyway, now let's talk about Christopher Calvin Scott.
Are spoilers okay? Because even explaining who Chris is
Wait, yeah. I mean, if it's okay with you, it's fine with me, because I was going to ask you about that anyway, because it's really a touchy subject. So I wanted to make sure I had your permission before we did the spoiler. So if you're good, okay, so let's go for it then. So let's talk about Christopher.
Okay, so if anybody's listening, if you're going to read the book, just turn it off for now.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
So what it ends up happening in the first book, the big secret is that Cal has dissociative identity disorder, and to a lot of people that means multiple personality disorder.
Yes.
So Christopher is Cal, but he's totally different.
Yes.
He's another aspect of his personality, but these two personalities, they conflict, and Christopher actually didn't even know that Cal existed.
Right. Right. That floored me when I read that. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that I could never imagine having these experiences and not having any clue.
Right.
It's happening with you, but it's in some ways not you.
Right.
But, just even now writing that, it's I don't want to say crazy or insane, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like you said, it's a doozy.
It is. I mean, that it takes a talent to tell a story of this magnitude, dealing with something that's very real, that's a very real issue, and to tell a story just so perfectly. Like I said, it speaks to the talent of a great writer. Now, now you explained what the DID is, and it is multiple personality disorder. And the first time that I was introduced to this, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember this movie or not, or even who Sally Field is, but Sybil, exactly. That's the first time that I was ever introduced to this disorder, and I mean that just blew my mind. But she had more personalities than Cal. She had, I mean, just a whole bunch of them, and I was like, oh my goodness. So for you, I mean that's mind blowing. It really is.
And it is, it is a real disorder that people suffer from. So even though we're laughing, I don't mean to make a light of it.
No.
But I think it's just hard for a lot of people to understand, that it is something that people will go through, and there's still a big debate in the mental health community.
Yes.
Whether this is a legitimate diagnosis. So there's a disclaimer as well.
Right.
But I did read a study where, and I forgot where the study was from, but they did a neural scan or brain scan of someone who claimed to have the disorder, and when they switched, they noticed brain activity.
Oh.
So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I still can't say, whether I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I just think the mind is capable of amazing things. So.
It is. It is. And I think that is one of the things that that just made me fall in love with this book. I mean, the writing was one thing, and the way you told the story was another thing, but how Lauren dealt with, with his condition once she discovered what it was. And that's why I said that, we saw her vulnerability, in her not being sure about her relationship, not being sure about Cal. But the one thing she was sure about was that she loved him. And because of that love, it made her stay with him, all the way through the end, even when she discovered, that Cal has this multiple personality disorder. And, and she had to deal with all these different personalities, 3 different personalities. And of course we have Cal, he's like the alpha, but we learned that, that Chris is like the sweet and complacent one, when you think about it. And so, and it was because he suffered, Cal suffered a traumatic experience when he was a kid. And this is what caused his condition, or so I think is what caused his condition. But for him, it's easy for him to, to just shut down and just move to the next person that was in rotation, which was actually Chris, the more humble, sweet person. And then of course we have Colin. I loved him. I love Colin, and it's a scene in the book when she asked him if he was gay, and I just started laughing. I was like, oh my gosh, because he's so metrosexual, with the ponytail and. So I guess that was Cal's feminine side. Colin was the feminine, but he was also.
I think it's just like like you said, he's a metrosexual. Very into. Well, he's the most intelligent of them.
He is.
Colin's very smart.
Yeah.
And he cares about his appearance. And he, the other 2, I would say both of them care about. All 3 of them care about their appearance.
Yeah.
But, I think if anybody was going to go and get a manicure,
it would be Colin.
Yeah.
It would definitely be Colin. But these characters are so intricate, so layered. But what I got from it, from this story, with Lauren's character, all the things that Cal would never open up to her about all the things she didn't know about him, his past, who he really was as a person, because, all she saw was his flashy side, because he liked nice cars. He liked the expensive suits, all of this stuff. He lived the high life, whereas Chris is more laid back. He's a singer. He's a musician. He's also a teacher. If I remember correctly, Chris was a teacher. And, and then he's the sweeter, softer side of Cal. And then, of course, Colin, he's, like you said, he's the most intelligent of the three, although Cal would disagree with that.
Maybe I used the wrong word. I wouldn't say the most intelligent. Maybe he's the most calculated.
Yeah.
That would probably be a better word.
Yeah, because he truly was, but he sort of popped in unexpectedly because, she didn't know that was a third side to Cal until she met Colin. But the thing of it is, my heart, it moaned for Lauren because, she is in the crossfire of this dilemma. And, here she is with a child and a husband who morphs, from one person with very different personalities than his alter ego. And so, but still, you helped her in this story. You helped her to maneuver through the chaos of her life. And in this story, without giving, like I said, anything away until the end of the first book. And, and everything about this story seemed so realistic, like it could just happen to anyone. And that's another part I like.
Yeah, I wanted to try to make it as realistic. I didn't want it to go off into like this fantasy thing. I wanted to pay as much. I want to keep as much realism as I could because it is a real disorder, and be respectful of that, but also have it be entertaining as well. So it was always kind of a fine line between
right.
Or becoming too unrealistic. But everything that I put in the book, there have been accounts of even the different eye colors.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a legit characteristic of when those personality switches happen.
Yeah, because I think Cal had gray eyes, didn't he?
Yeah, Cal had gray eyes, and Chris's were mainly a lot of. You're cutting in and out.
His eyes were changeable.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Because I've seen that too. People with gray eyes, sometimes their eyes look hazel, or sometimes they look that really, really light shade of blue. That blue-gray color. Right. So I think that was another identifier of the whenever the changes of the personalities came into play. I think that was one way to help Lauren to identify who she was talking to. But like I said, Cal had the more dominant personality, so she sort of knew, because she spent the most time with him. So of course she knew him better than she did Chris and Colin. But I just love how she just soldiered through. I felt her angst and I felt the terror, because the heartbreak and the betrayal of everything that she was going through, and and she still managed to somehow keep her sanity, even with a small child while she was going through it. But I mean, she was going through it while they were going through it as well.
Right, yeah.
So I love how you kept that balance. Like I said, everybody has family who wants to interfere, in your relationships. But I like how, she just kept it real with them, and her friend, her meddling friend, I wish I could remember her name, but I cannot remember.
Hillary.
What was her name again?
Hillary.
Yes. I was like, just go somewhere and sit down, please, and just leave her alone.
I made Hillary there because I know some people, readers would be like, why are you even still with this guy?
Right.
And so Hillary was a good way to present the side, that, maybe this.
You're
real fans would say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I like that. That's why I said. I mean, the story was so believable. But, as if it could happen to anyone, because you did have that friend. Because I mean, who in your family or who in your circle of friends is not going to bring up this subject? They're not just going to go along with you. When they know that you're going through. If they care about you, they're going to say, "Listen, you need a reality check." Because you can't continue on like this. But but she was so overbearing at times to where, I just wanted to strangle her. I really did.
I have real life friends like that.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe she was a bit exaggerated, but no, there are real women who act like Hillary.
Wow. Well, I guess I don't have many friends. I guess I don't have any friends like that, because it's like they know where to get on and get off. But I guess that too is a part of the balance of the story that makes it so believable, and it sort of keeps Lauren from losing her mind, because if you've got this friend over here that you need to fight with on occasion, it sort of takes your mind away from what you're actually going through. But I just love how in all four of the books, because I read them all. Now I don't know about the other four. I'm not sure about those, but the main ones, book 1, If I Break, and then 2, Almost Broken, 3, Beautifully Broken. And then book 4 was the If I Break, Shattered, and I think that one was told from the guy's perspective, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot more of Colin.
You said Colin and.
In that book.
Okay, in that book, If I Break, Shattered. So how did you come up with that title, If I Break?
Wow, this has been so long since I first that title.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just, everything that Lauren will through, she's almost to the point of breaking.
Yes, yes.
She can't do that, especially once she has her daughter.
Right.
It's different. It's not just her anymore, and she has to be strong. And if
Yes.
she's going to be with this man, she has to have that strength.
Right.
And a lot of some reviews, it's a criticism, stating that Lauren was weak and she was a doormat and things like that. But I think those people have never really been in love.
Right.
You know how when you love someone, there's a lot that you will put up with. And
Yes.
that's a weakness. I think it is a strength.
It is. It really is. And that's how I saw her, from the very beginning of this story. Like I said, we saw her vulnerability. And I think that's within all of us. Everyone has vulnerabilities, but it didn't make her a doormat, as they said. I don't see that, because you have to be strong to deal with someone who you don't know who they're going to be from one day to the next, or 1 minute from the next, because she went to sleep with Chris, and then she would wake up with Cal, so you have to be strong. You have to have a strong mind. You have to have a strong will to endure this, these changes, because I mean, they were like the wind, changing direction all the time. But so I disagree with everybody is entitled to their own opinions, and I'm not just saying this because I love the books so much, but I'm saying it as a fellow writer. You have to pull in those personalities from yourself. You have to pull in your those strengths from yourself and add those to the characters, because I just didn't see her as being weak-willed or anything like that. I just saw her as being vulnerable, and that's very human to me. To have your weak moments, your very low moments. Especially when she didn't understand at the beginning what was going on with Cal. All she knows is that he was MIA for a lot of the time, and it was unexplained. But as she, as things were unveiled to her, as they were revealed to her, she started to understand what was going on. She probably still didn't understand so much the disorder that he suffered from, once she discovered that Cal was Chris and Colin. But, as the stories progressed, we sort of see her becoming more comfortable, with these three different identities, because, she identified them as all being separate people, but they were all one person. And I loved how you brought that to light. You wrote the story as these three different persons, but they were just one person with different personalities. So how did you manage to to break that down to actually make that so well to explain it? Because I think he went to go see a psychiatrist, and I think that the psychiatrist is the person who actually explained it to them what was going on.
Yeah, and I think why this story may be relatable to really obscure disorder is that I think sometimes we're all different people. Most of us have a work version of ourselves. Then when you have a version, we are with our friends. A lover with our parents. So I think it was that unbelievable. For these person.
Are you still there, Portia? Hello? Portia, are you there? Did I lose you? Okay, guys, I think I lost Portia. Oh, gosh, I hate that. We were having such a great discussion, too. I think it's on her end, though, but I still see that she's up on my end. So we may have to pick this up again. I'm going to call her back, and I may have to continue. This may be a two-parter because I do want to complete this interview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this one, and then we're going to pick back up with the second part of the interview. So just hold on, and we'll be back.